So, good morning. Almost close, like as far as my schedule says, 4 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go, even, and then we'll get started. Hope you had a wonderful event so far. I wished I would speak your language, meaning the language of technology. It's a technology event after all. But I don't, or at least not a lot. So, wishing you a warm welcome. In a few minutes, we'll get started. And sort of regardless of how many people are here or are not here. And I've been testing out a lot of things, so I assume that all of my things work. I can see myself on the camera. I hope my microphone is working, so that's great. Now, just for some background, I'm calming down in the meantime, because this morning was a bit of a stress moment here, because for the past 2 weeks, there's been a lot of works, construction works, road works in our street. I don't know where you live, but it happens, I believe, everywhere. So I have to pull new cables and gas and electricity and all that things. And fiber internet things. And this morning, suddenly, poof, all lights went out in the house. Felt a bit of a panicking moment. Cool. Being in a session, getting information about a recommended session. Okay. I think they're trying to pull you out of my session. So this morning, poof, all lights went out in the house. The first things you go look at your plugs and everything, and it seemed all right. So it was a general electricity failure. So, oh my God, I've got a session coming up. I think I need electricity, but then I went in to look into a backup solution. And I had one fixed already, meaning working on my laptop because I don't need electricity. Trying to make a connection via my mobile connection on 4G. Did a little test, went well this morning, but not too long after, about hours, poof, all lights went on again. So we've got electricity. Means I can do this from my let's say my regular machine rather than just my laptop, which means I've got a better camera. Which is not to get a better view of me, but hopefully of the presentation I've prepared for you guys. So welcome. Good morning. I hope you're not surprised that this is an English-speaking session, because I wish I mastered Polish, but I have no clue about Polish words, anything. So really great. So I hope technically everything working out also in the meantime. Over here it does. Electricity, I'm here. I've got my PowerPoint ready. I've been in Poland just a few weeks ago in Warsaw to speak at an event, Scrum Experience Day. It's really beautiful. It's been a long time since I was in Poland, but I love to come there. But doesn't mean I still don't master Polish. I wished I did, but I don't. Sorry. So let's just do this in English, or at least something that sounds like English. As you may know, I live in Belgium, in Antwerp, if anybody's ever been there. So beautiful place. Come visit our city at some point in time. Yeah? Okay. Now, enough of chit-chat. Time is limited. Stress, pressure, whatever deadlines. We only have 45 minutes. So I would assume we can get started. Yeah. So I wanna share my screen, which is now funny. You see all these recurring screens happening, but once I go over there, it should be fixed. If it isn't, try to give me some sort of sign. But hopin.com says it's sharing my screen. So good morning. I hope you had a wonderful start of the event. I hope you will have still a wonderful event after this session. Thanks very, very, very much for joining. It's wonderful to be here. Something about positive technologies, and I highlighted IT in that. So positive IT, positive technologies, wonderful. As I said early on, I'm not a technology guy. I think I can talk to people about technology, but please don't let me do anything with it. My focus is mostly on working with people and helping people interact, collaborate, helping people do their job better, like working with technology, but in a context or a frame that we call Scrum. So my thing is Scrum. Been doing this for quite a while now, since 2003, a long time ago in Belgium. Now, what might be interesting for people with a technology spirit is that my life of Scrum didn't start with Scrum back in 2003. It started with extreme programming. So, and thanks to the beautiful people of the team that I used to work with, software people, developers, engineers, you name it, architects, whatever, they helped me see the beauty of practices like test-driven development, test-first development, continuous integration, all sorts of automated testing, and so on. So they really got me into that world, and I never stopped believing in it. Not even when we wrapped our extreme programming in Scrum. My life is all about Scrum. It's also why I call myself an independent Scrum Caretaker. Independent means I'm not tied into any type of specific organization, just standing on my own 2 feet. Not the easy road, but that's sort of the recurring theme of my life anyhow, it seems. Not to go for the easy road ever. What I want to share with you guys is some thoughts about what I would call the current state of Scrum. So I've been doing this now for 19 years. The advantages, 19 years of doing this, that you see things happening, you see things coming, you see things disappearing again. And certainly during the Corona crisis, which has left me with a lot of time to think and reflect and look back at Scrum, what I've been doing, what is happening. I regularly meet a lot of people in my classes out there on events from around the world, often a lot from Europe. And what bothers me with this thing we call Scrum, it's been around for a long time now, 27 years, and I miss progress. I miss moving forward with Scrum. It feels like we're stuck. Next to the fact that whenever I talk to people about Scrum, with all of you beautiful development technology focus, that when I go to work with people or talk about Scrum or explain Scrum or facilitate people's learning in a class, when I talk about the important role of developers and self-organization, self-management in that, everybody wonders, why don't developers then just love this? And I think it has a lot to do with the stories I'm about to tell. So we used to be organized for what I call the industrial paradigm, the industrial way of thinking. I don't know whether you know that Taylorist thing, where certainly developers or programmers, coders, whatever, are treated like is on the screen mindless workers. With the agile way of working, let's say the agile paradigm, we try to turn that around. We want to not just recognize that you are, or that developers are creative, intelligent people with a brain, with skills, with insights, and so on. So we not just want to recognize it, we want to really build on it. But that means moving away from that industrial thinking of looking down on people, putting pressure on people, and so on. Now, we are not organized for that, what I would call the agile paradigm. Most of our organizations have their roots in, let's say, the industrial paradigm, the old paradigm before the information age, before the knowledge age, before the real-time connected age. And they were not organized to build on people's intelligence. Now they are organized in a different way with silos and departments, specialized people together. It's all not about collaboration. It's even about anti-collaboration. And we try to get people to work together via governance and projects and processes and telling people large methodologies, telling people what to do at what point of time, who should be at what meeting, and so on. And then we're surprised to find out that in this new age, this new way of working, this is very rigid. This is slow. This is full of delays. We're not really moving forward. That is probably the reason why a lot of people want to go for Scrum. And so, but I don't think we're really doing that. We are not helping. maybe not Scrum Masters, but also other people, coaches, whatever you have in the organization, yourself, we are not helping organizations move from the industrial way of thinking to the agile paradigm. And that is unfortunate. And that is regardless of the fact of how widespread Scrum actually is. It's all over the place. It's all over the world. It seems like nowadays everybody is doing it, or at least something that looks like Scrum, but we're not getting the full benefits out of it. And why is that? In my view, because we've got these rigid organizations, and then we come with this idea about Agile and Scrum. It's all about teams. And what do people do, or organizations do? They set up whatever they would call agile transformations. Now, all individuals, in a way, have to work together in a team. But we set up teams within existing structures, following existing governance and so on. We just combine people, individuals into teams. And we now call them agile teams, or we call them Scrum teams, whatever. But in the end, we find out that it is still a very rigid construction overall, because it's not just because you implement a Scrum process as a team that you're getting the full benefits out of it. Sort of a mistake that a lot of organizations make. And what I certainly miss in all of this, whatever people call agile transformation, and then moving individuals into teams, is this focus on product. What is your product? What is the service that you're trying to bring to the market? What is this vehicle that you want to use to bring services and to the market and generate user satisfaction, or increase user satisfaction, increase overall the agility of the organization, the flexibility, the responsiveness. So you've got all these individual teams set up within existing silos, often building little parts, little aspects and so on. But nobody's minding, nobody is taking care of the overarching service or product that those individual teams often are working on. So they don't really have a product backlog. They have something that looks like a backlog, really a product backlog. They got not really a product owner. And the next thing next to that, so we got all these individual teams, and they often not even aware that in the end they're trying to work for the same product, the same service, trying to serve the same customers, but nobody's taking care of that. That's what I miss. And I think the reason why it's missing is because people, organizations don't go through that thinking process to define what is our product, and then think about the impact on the organization. In that sense, we're trying to stay away from organizational changes. And indeed, Scrum doesn't say how to change an organization, although it has some clear clues, like the fact that it's all about building, developing, evolving, sustaining, maintaining a product, build on self-organizing developers, but bounded by the fact that we will organize our work in short cycles. So if you have no idea about your product, that's sort of a problem already, and not just a small problem, but a big problem. And the next thing is how to deal with all those other things around that. Governance, management, leadership, departments, silos, collaboration, whatever, PMOs, you name it. Nobody seems to be daring to touch that. Although I think that by doing Scrum and being really transparent about what is working, what is not working, what are problems that we are still facing, questions around, are we delivering value to end users, to consumers? Yes, no. Are we delivering stuff that is actually releasable, meaning fit for production? That by asking those questions from Scrum, that you will find out we've got all of those impediments in the organizations, things that are hindering us, blocking us, impeding us. So what is stopping us to do something about it? And that is what I miss in a lot of Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, but even teams themselves don't sit around waiting for things to happen. In that sense, what I miss in this whole thing about Scrum is what I call challenging the status quo. We are ending up, in my view, with Scrum in a status quo. We are introducing the process, we're organizing individuals into teams, and that's sort of about it. We're coming to some sort of big standstill, in my view. What about taking the next step? That is what I'm missing. Driving your Scrum forward. And how to do that by challenging the status quo. It's something that we used to say that's sort of an essential part of being a Scrum Master. almost irritating people with challenging questions, open questions, challenging ideas, provoking things to happen, sort of building on the idea that long time ago was called in Edinburgh in Scotland, was called the doctrine of improvability. That means, yes, whether you're doing fine or not, there must be a better way. So think about it, the doctrine of improvability, challenging the status quo. I miss that. Who is doing that? Is your Scrum Master doing that? Is your Agile coach, whatever, doing that? Are they challenging? Are they seeing themselves not just as facilitators or servant leaders for the team, but also challenging being a servant leader for the organization? So it's not about helping a team become more effective in Scrum. It's also about the organization becoming more effective in Scrum. And that's what I miss. And Scrum Masters should be doing that. Because in the end, and I think we're running, I see that we're running into that a lot. Scrum is only used effectively if organizations have the courage, but if organizations rethink the structures around it. HR types of things, how to deal with people practices, how to review people, but also how to fund and budget initiatives, how to track the progress of initiative, the role of leadership or management in it, with sort of like servant management. That's where it should go. So yes, we are using Scrum widely, but you know what? Scrum is more than just something at the team level. It will have an impact on the organization broadly, widely. And if we're not able to accept that and recognize that and then capitalize on that, we will never get the full benefits out of Scrum. In that sense, we will never shift from what I call the industrial thinking, the Taylorist model, which is all about oppressing and not trusting people. We will never go to the agile paradigm of discovery, uncovering work, exploring work, inspection and adaptation all the time, collaboration of people, interactions, and so on. And those things are the things that are actually embedded in the Agile Manifesto. Yeah? We will not go there as long as we limit our Scrum to existing structures, existing boundaries of the organization. Yeah. At some point in time, I started calling that to reversify an organization. So rather than going for large scale, big overnight, whatever, over weekend transformations, and then everybody moving into team have to be moved into teams that don't even have a choice about which team. They all have to apply the same process, the same approach. Like an example of that, everybody has to work in 2-week sprints across the whole organization, and all sprints have to start and end on the same time. That's like, okay, why would you do that? I don't get it. Scrum is an open framework. I like to say that you can standardize on Scrum, meaning we all play by the same rules, but you don't have to industrialize your Scrum to death. You don't have to force everybody into doing Scrum in exactly the same way. Like sprint length, why not have different sprint lengths in different parts of the organization for different contexts, different products, different services? Why not? What's wrong with that? So I started calling that, what we need to do to reversify. And it's an old English word. It's a verb, by the way. That's also why it's an action. It's something that you do. It's not a model. It's not a cookbook or whatever. It's taking action. And the action is supposed to turn an old text into verse again. And that resonates with me a lot. It's sort of restoring harmony, poetry back into organizations. And I love that a lot. And how to do that is by reimagining your Scrum or your organization Scrum in order to finally re-emerge, rethink the structures around your Scrum. That is essential. And that is, for me, more needed than ever. I've been spreading this message since 6-7 years. I've been calling it like that. I know, I'm irrelevant. I know nobody believes me. That's why I have to keep repeating the message. But that is, for me, this is what is needed for me to move our Scrum, your Scrum downfield. Now, what does that mean, sort of technically, to reversify? Let's start with the first step. Reimagine your Scrum. That starts by looking back, taking a step back from what you're actually doing with all those Scrum teams spread around over the work floor. often running around like headless chickens as a team, then not connected to each other, not collaborating, not interacting, no idea what sort of the end purpose is of what they're in the end doing. So take a step back, know your product. Think back about what is the product, what is the service that we're trying to build, maintain, serve, evolve with Scrum. And then think about maybe one product, one service alone. And for that one product or that one service, think about what would it mean for us to create actually releasable, usable versions of this product. And all the things that are required to create usable, releasable versions of that product in increments, we call it product increment, that should define your definition of done. And that should define the skills, the expertise you need in your Scrum teams. So know your product, take a step back, know your product, think about your product, and then look at how the teams are organized and reboot that, reset that. Think about, are we as teams all working on the same product? Are we optimally organized to optimally serve this product? Against the idea that we want to start releasing what I call tasty sashimi product slices of that product. Those increments are like product slices. You want to release to the market. You want to have them in a tasteful, useful state. Do that for one product. Once you sort of get the hold on that and you've gone through a lot of motions and problems with that, do that for the next product. And the next, and the next, and the next. So keep repeating and expanding rather than go for the industrial approach to your agile transformation. Make it an iterative incremental thing. You want to ingrain what it means to iteratively incremental develop a product with Scrum. So reboot for that and start doing that overall movement, whatever you would call it, transformation or not, do that also in an iterative incremental way. So think of one product, one service, reboot your Scrum for that, make sure you have a backlog for that product, make sure you have an owner for that product, and make sure you have all the development skills organized in teams, one or multiple teams, to create tasty sashimi product slices. The role of the Scrum Master always the same: facilitating, coaching, helping, triggering, being that annoying person, trying to help people look beyond the actual current status quo. So this is one level up. This is not Kaizen. This is not improving within an existing thing. This is taking a step back. Maybe this is Kaiku. This is challenging the status quo one level up. Yeah? So that is really important. And let's agree by doing that, rebooting, resetting your teams, that the way that in most organizations, certainly the larger organizations, but even smaller ones that I know, what we now call teams, meaning teams within those vertical departments, silos of an organization, those are not what we would call in Scrum actually teams. Those are not teams. What is a team? In a team, we replace sort of being driven by governance and meetings, handovers, and so on, administration, bureaucracy. We replace that with working on the same product. Products have consumers. They're outside of the organization, the people that consume your product. That might be buyers. Sometimes buyers are not the same as consumers. In the end, we want to build products to ultimately serve the consumers of the product. In order to do that, we need a product owner. I don't know, it might come from the business, might come from IT, depending on the product, the type of product, but we need a product owner, one person minding the product, the vision, the direction of the product, the progress of the product from an end user perspective. Yeah. And then often what happens is, if you want to organize that properly, even from the IT side of the organization, what we would typically call technology development side of the organization, you need multiple skills and expertise in a team. And that is why I think people are avoiding this, because having a team and having a team that is composed to optimally serve a product requires skills and expertise from different departments, actually from probably different ways or different teams as they are set up currently. And that's what it seems that we're trying to avoid that, because we will run into department heads and team leads and whatever, and they feel like they are losing control. might be the case, but don't hide away, don't shy away from that. But a proper team in Scrum would not just have IT skills in the team, coding, programming, testing, I don't know, technical things, integrating, and so on. But you would probably also need some sort of business skills, maybe business analyst, maybe representatives of the product owner, functional analysts, sometimes user research people. You need a Scrum team having all of the skills needed to develop the proper product and develop it properly. So the product owner role is making sure that you're doing the right thing. Developers within Scrum, or what we used to call the development team in Scrum, making sure that those things are done in the right way too. That requires skills that goes across a combination of skills that goes across all those silos in departments and so on. But in the end, I want a Scrum Master to facilitate that. But this is a team. In a context of Scrum, this would be a team built, dedicated around a product, making sure that they can produce end-to-end value for the consumers of the product, inspired by the product owner, supported, facilitated by the Scrum Master. And this is the difficulty. But then still, Scrum cannot be the purpose of Scrum. Don't do Scrum because of Scrum. Don't do Scrum because, oh yeah, it might mean we're going to do stuff in 2 weeks' time instead of 6 months' time. That's not enough. Don't do Scrum because you want to adhere to the process. Scrum cannot be the purpose of Scrum. That might require, and that might be maybe my way of challenging even Scrum Masters thinking about this. Go back to the essence, the core definition of Scrum. So Scrum, it comes from rugby, where it's about getting an out-of-game ball back into the game, which, by the way, is a beautiful metaphor for what Scrum as a global movement should be. The ball was out of the game. We got off track with software development, with complex product development, with new product development, with complex challenges. Anyhow, with the industrial way of thinking. Let's get the ball back into the game and use Scrum for that. Scrum is an empirical framework that enables people to derive value from complex challenges. So we tackle complexity with empiricism, inspection, adaptation, because in complex challenges, you don't need predictions, you don't need a predictive approach, you need an approach based upon increasing or an approach that is focused on increasing your ability to adapt, to capitalize on changes, to see changes, to build on new experiences, new things you've learned, learning all the time. So it's an empirical framework because we tackle complexity. It's all about people. We are people. We are not robots. We are not resources. We are not machines. We are not replaceable pieces of machinery. We are intelligent, creative people. That in itself, by the way, working with groups of those those types of things, people, that is already a complex thing enough to be building on inspection adaptation, by the way. So even if your work is not overly complex or full of uncertainties, the fact that we are going to have to tackle it with groups of people is in itself increases the complexity up to the level that you will need inspection adaptation anyhow. But the purpose of Scrum is to help people via the Scrum framework derive value from their work. It's often, I believe in our case, it's probably like a technology event. It's a lot with software development. So software development is certainly a complex challenge. The idea is to derive value from our challenge. And value, that is a very different thing than volume is. So even if we are thinking about our product and setting up our teams or inviting people to rethink their team structures to ultimately serve the product, still the purpose of doing all of that is value. And value is not volume. Volume means doing more, quicker, faster, whatever. That is still that sort of manufacturing thinking. That is still the industrial mindset. That is still not getting people to go to shift towards what I could call the agile paradigm. About uncovering, discovering, exploring, and so on. Value is what we need to drive us in such a way, or in that way of working. And it's in the Scrum Guide. I wrote a paper a few years ago saying that, you know what, in Scrum, product, and I put it between quotes, I'll explain, product is the vehicle to deliver value. So organize to optimally serve your product or reorganize for that, but also think about your product. What is value for our product? So know your product. What is the good? What is the service that you're bringing? It might be the physical thing. It might be a digital thing. It might be a service, might be an application, might be a big system. But for me, in terms of Scrum, it's only a product if we define it at a level where we can provide value to the consumers of the product, meaning a component, a little part of a product that is actually a bit of a product. You can see that as a product, not good enough for me. So a team is not a team unless we have all of the skills and the expertise to build releasable increments versions of that product. But the product is not a product unless we try to bring value to end users or consumers. It makes no sense that 10 teams in a row have to build on the work of the previous team to, in the end, maybe have something at the product level. You want to improve upon that. So, and product is the vehicle to deliver value. So that is important. So technically, to reversify, bring back verse, poetry, harmony to the organization, to what I call humanize the workplace also, by the way. Start with reimagining your Scrum. You know your product. You know what it means to have a done version of your product. You have the skills for that. You can start creating tasty sashimi releases of that product. Now further optimize for value. And this is where, in a way, we go beyond Scrum, the Scrum Guide, the instructions of Scrum. This is where we seem to stop challenging organizations. So in that sense, to organize for value or to optimize for value means, first of all, start in a way managing for value. Stop managing for volume. Stop managing for resource sharing of people, sharing of resources. That is the industrial way. That is all based upon manufacturing. That is not about being agile. Now, how to arm for value? How to manage arm for value? So how to almost like weaponize ourselves for value? Step one, assume value on your product backlog. Make sure as product owners, first of all, you have a product identified, that you organize your product backlog, and it should be a real product backlog, not just some sort of wild, chaotic team backlog. It should be a backlog for the product. Order all the work on the product backlog, sort it so that it optimized for delivering value. The most important stuff, so that requires maybe thinking about what is our value, what is defining value. As a product owner, work with your stakeholders around value. So assume value in a way on your product backlog. Assume that by doing this work first, you will be deriving value from the work, that you will be generating value, that you will be delivering value. So organize your product backlog for value. That might be plainly in the ordering of your product backlog, the sequence of work on the product backlog driven by generating a flow of value. You might be creating next to an estimate of a product backlog item in effort. You might be creating some sort of indication, assumption, a value for value on a product backlog item. It might be relative to, but organize your product backlog for value. Then organizing your product backlog for value, really great. Creating something that could be put into the market, all fine. But until you actually go to market, you still have no idea. It's still an assumption of value. You're anticipating that you're delivering value, but you don't know until you release. And what is for me important about releasing, you're going to release those product increments. That is output. That is important. You have to create output, but our focus should go beyond the output only. So you have to create output, but in the end, it's about the outcome, the impact that you have with your output. So you're creating increments, put them on the market, but putting it on the market and then not collecting feedback, not closing the feedback cycle with your users completely, still will leave you blindfolded. So measure outcome, measure impact. That is how to arm for value. So let value be the core driver of all the work that you do. But don't stop until you know that our output is actually delivering value. We have anticipated that it's actually happening, or it's not happening. because that is important, and you want to do that over and over and over again, because in the end you might have one measurement, one data point, maybe not enough. Keep doing this. Make this also part of your iterative incremental process. And that means thinking about what does value mean for us. So you're doing Scrum, let's call that your Scrum zone. You want to create on top of that an additional feedback loop. Ideally, that additional feedback loop would be the same as your sprint, by the way, but that's even a more technical story. But at least you want to think about what does value for our product mean. So know your product. It will define what you mean with done, but also it will define what you mean with value, what it means to create valuable slices of your product, not just releasable. And then in order to collect that feedback later on, you want to think about what we call KVIs, key value indicators. What are indicators that will tell us that we are or are not delivering value? And that is a measurement. But be careful about measurements. It's called it KVIs. It's sort of like KPIs, but they are not the same. They're key value indicators. One of the biggest problems with all indicators that we use, whether we call them KPIs or OKRs, is that they often turn into targets. And that's not helpful, because in order to achieve our targets, we are human beings. We will do anything. We would lie, we would steal, we would kill, whatever. So measurements are not targets. Don't treat them as targets. Look beyond individual data points. Look at trends. And think about multiple indicators. You need KVIs, key value indicators, and value is rarely captured in one indicator only. You will need indicators. Typically, you think about indicators of that you're delivering value for your consumers, value for the organization, the people that sponsor the work. So you get value for consumers, value for your sponsors, but also value for the people doing the work. Try to use Scrum to stop the rat race. So delivering value for consumers and for the organization, beautiful, nice, but not at the cost of the well-being, the motivation, the energy of the people, the teams doing the work. So think about that. You probably need multiple indicators and are looking for a balance between all of those indicators. And if you think in terms of products have a life. Right? They go through a life cycle. They get conceived. They get studied. Usability research. I don't know, feasibility, whatever. At some point in time, they get built. They will evolve. They will change over time. They have a life. They will grow. They will shrink. Anything can happen. You might pivot. You might add functionality, capabilities. You might remove capabilities. And at some point of time, products are taken out of the market again. That's a natural thing to happen. Now, what it means for a product or a slice of a product to be valuable is likely to evolve over time as the product grows, changes, and so on. So think about those aspects too. Now, measurement, really cool, but I've already used the terminology a lot. Scrum is all about adaptability. In that sense, being able to change, being able to adjust, being able to adapt, literally. Measurements, beautiful. That is what I would call in Scrum, that is inspection. Yeah, so you've got measurements you want to measure. That means you perform certain inspections. The inspection without adaptation obviously is pointless. Capturing measurements, indicators of value, and not doing anything with it, that is totally pointless. So it's pointless to not go there, but it's pointless also to stop there. So it's all about adaptation. You see trends, you see changes, you see things you like, you see things happening that you're not really that fond of. You want to use that information to think about adaptations. And core adaptations, I would say, are about, but do the teams have the skills? Do they have the knowledge? Do they need some training? Do they have access to systems? Do they have the tools to do their work? Can they do things like automated testing? Are they using the right practices? In that sense, are they following sort of the right standards? Do they have a clear definition of done in place? In a way, I would hope that if you would be focused on value, that you would start changing the structures around Scrum anyhow. So in a way, you've got two entry points to my story. Think about your product first, then reorganize for your product. Think about value, which is the core purpose of Scrum. Are we delivering value as a team? No, because we are not this, we don't have that expertise. Other teams are working on it too. So value and capturing indicators of value should be or could be a driver of that sort of change too. No, we're not delivering the value that we hoped for. We anticipated, we assumed that this was increased customer satisfaction, but it's not happening. Why is it not happening? It's not good, it's not bad. What can we do to make it happen anyhow? Or what can we do, even if it's happening, to make it even better? Think about the doctrine of improvability. There must be a better way. So that is important. So that, because value defines the success of your Scrum, not adherence to the process, not doing more in a shorter time span, because you can do more volume, build more value, create more output that is still not appreciated by your user, that is still not bringing money, that is not gaining you market share, that is not in a way hurting the competition or whatever. So the success of Scrum, whether that is a Scrum team, whether that is the product owner, or whether that is the full adoption of Scrum by an organization, lies in the ability to deliver value. And we need to challenge people for their thinking in terms of old school thinking, resources utilization, being busy all day long, being busy every minute of every hour of every day of every working week, doing overtime. That's not the point of Scrum. Utilization, shared, treating people as resources, not the goal of Scrum. And we have to start challenging organizations at a higher up level beyond the team to help them move from the industrial thinking to the agile paradigm. And that might include rethinking how you're doing Scrum based upon your product, based upon a definition of done, which defines the skills expertise, based upon your definition of value, which defines how you're going to manage progress and track progress, and ultimately adapt for that, optimize for that. It might, and it will, and it should help you see how to adapt the organization. So technically, we already know to reversify means reimagining your Scrum. It means optimizing for value in the sense of you start managing for value, you make value sort of the core driver of your development, and in that sense of what you ever would call management or tracking or managing progress, capturing progress via key value indicators. You would optimize your team composition, your expertise, your skills, your way of working for that. That includes access to system authorizations and so on, tooling, education, additional people or not. But that's not enough. Organize for value. In that sense, start reorganizing the organization. And my belief is that we should go for what I would call product hub. And let me share that. We're also near the end of the session. We're also near the end of my presentation. So yeah, happy me. So we've reorganized for products. We have formed teams, Scrum teams, having a product owner working with one or multiple teams of developers, helped or supported or served by one or more Scrum Masters. But a product has one product owner, one product backlog, no matter how many teams there are. Yeah, we're trying to serve consumers. Obviously, within the organization, we've got stakeholders in place. So we're trying to serve the organization that are represented via the stakeholders. We invite stakeholders to come to our sprint reviews, where again, it's all about value. What have we done in this sprint as a team to deliver value, to create a potential impact? It's a potential impact if we haven't released yet. That means we need an additional feedback loop on top of our sprint to validate that or invalidate that. So we've got stakeholders within the organization, but also we've got often what I would call in general subject matter experts or product management people with certain insights, market insights, usage insights, user insights, competitive insights, that might even be for the divine concert, HR people and so on, product management people, sales, marketing people, financial people, and so on. So we want to be able to include their knowledge, their insights into our work so that we're absolutely sure that we're doing the right stuff. That might also be legal people, by the way, compliance people in terms of government regulations or expectations and so on. So we've got Scrum teams set up now. This is what I would call a product hub. Meaning at the heart of the product hub, we've got a product owner with a team supported by the Scrum Master delivering tasty sashimi releases via increments of the product. And we want to actively collaborate with all of those other people too, because we need them. So again, one more level up of cutting right through all those layers and departments and silos that we have in place. So if you would do this, reversify for one product, you would know your product. You would know what it means to have done versions of the product. You would know what it means to create value. You would manage for value. You would also further organize for value. That means you would create an instance that I call a product hub. Yeah, that has all of the skills and the expertise in it to completely serve the product. So not just deliver the product, not just create it, but also make sure that all input you need for it is included. In that sense, what I miss is this driver to really transform an organization, get it into more agile structures, away from the rigid structures that are impeding, almost discouraging Scrum teams, but impeding them, blocking them to really be flexible. It's time to use Scrum to inject some agility in the structures of our organizations. And Scrum has anything in it Scrum has anything all in it to invite us to actually do that. Think about value, think about self-organization, think about releasable increments, how to do that even better than you're doing today. So take a product, form it into a product hub with those steps to reversify, so reversification. Do it for another product and service until in the end you start forming a network service. So step by step, iterative incremental, you move from an old school rigid pyramid structure into a flexible structure, a network of product hubs, where every product hub is self-sustaining, and you get some agility in your structures. That means a product hub can grow, it can shrink, one can disappear, a new product hub can be set up as you start up development or creation or thinking about a new product or a new service. A product might disappear. And all the things that now connects or that is sort of built on top of those teams, all those layers, are first of all minimized. They're made a lot more lightweight, but they will still be there, but it will be some form of distribution of leadership. It will be less heavy. It will be more flexible. In that sense, more agile, the original meaning of the word, more nimble. And this is what I miss. This is challenging the status quo. So think about your product. Think about all the activities that you need to organize for your product. Make sure you have a product owner for it. Deliver your product, create your product using Scrum with Scrum development teams or Scrum developers, whatever you want to call it. But in a product hub, you would make sure that those product owners also work with salespeople, marketing people, product management people, potentially HR people, anything, you name it. And that work should not be organized as a separate silo or a separate department. You want to pull it into your product hub. You've got a autonomous product hub working, facilitated, coach, supported by a Scrum Master or multiple Scrum Masters that can help restore the healthiness of the relationships within the team, but also the healthiness of the relationships between the team and the organization. So that would be one product hub. And last words, if you then think back of where we got the name Scrum from, the new product development game, a product hub would operate like a startup. They would set their own agenda, take their own initiatives. Management, leadership in the organization will act as an investor. It's not their role, it's not their skill, it's not their expertise to intervene on a daily basis and tell people how to do their work. They are there to make sure that direction is maintained, that everybody knows where they're going. They're there to provide guidance. And that is so important. A last quote from a little book I wrote, 10 years ago. There's been 3 editions by now. In my book, I talked about the future state of Scrum. I talked about the challenge that we have, which I called the power of the potential product. In that sense, better product ownership embedded within the organization. I talked about upstream adoption. This is all that I've talked about today. So those challenges that will define the future of Scrum, that are needed to not let Scrum go down the drain again, is needed. So hopefully I will stick to my belief, my dream, my hope, my ambition that the future state of Scrum will no longer be called Scrum. It will become our natural way of working. What we now call Scrum will have become the norm, and organizations will have re-emerged around it. But I think it needs a little push. It needs a little kick in the, you know what? Up yours. So go ahead, challenge your organizations, challenge the status quo within the organizations. Don't wait just for your Scrum Masters to do that. Take initiative yourself. You can do this. So thank you very much for being here, for listening. I wish you a wonderful Positive Technologies event, the 2022 edition. So really, really great. I haven't been minding because I was sort of totally locked into my screen. I hope you liked it. Evelina, I wish all of us to make your dream come true. Please do that. I can't do this on my own. I can try to help people, inspire people, share ideas, but I can sort of kick some asses, you know what? But challenge the status quo within your organizations. Move your Scrum forward. But if we all start moving our little Scrums forward, we will move Scrum as a global movement forward. Yeah, I see something from Camille building up Arma. Yeah, I the funny thing is I've been thinking about it. So ARM is where it starts, and I was thinking about adding it into Armada. Spanish fleet long time ago. Armada, ARM plus adapt. So thanks for pointing out that, Camille. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Cool. So thank you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for being here, and enjoy challenging the status quo. But don't get fired. Cool. We even have Belgium in the session. Just quickly looking at the chat. So the people that are still here, I'll just keep talking as long as people are here. That's what I do. Oh, Jurgen, so working at the Belgian Federal Police. Cool. Long time ago, I did some work for the Ministry of Internal Affairs combined with the Federal Police. It's I believe it's now called Police on Web, by the way. That's sort of we built long time ago, 2006, the first version of that. Fascinating. Now, Evelina said a beautiful thing that value can only be delivered by people that also value themselves. So let's use Scrum to help people value themselves again, believe in themselves again. Cool. Okay, cool. I'm going to leave. Thank you very much for being here. Time to take a little break, refresh, stretch your legs, and move to the next session. Bye-bye.